evening and welcome to this meeting of the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education for Wednesday, February 11th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Do I need to count this as the joint meeting or are they going to do a separate roll call for themselves?
I'm only doing a quorum for the board.
Okay, all right. Please call the meeting to order. Oh, has this meeting been properly noticed?
It has.
Please call the meeting to order.
Tito?
Here.
Eliason?
Here.
Garner? Here. Herzog? Here. Limburger?
Here.
Saginack? Wiedenhoff?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Do you now need to call yours to order?
No, not necessarily. We've noticed it, and
Okay.
it's just a meeting that we're just sitting in, and technically we don't have a quorum yet.
Okay. So actually, this is our meeting and you're joining it.
Yeah,
right.
that works good for us.
First workshop presentation on current collaborations between Oshkosh Area School District and the city.
I think,
Right. I'll just initially introduce the topic. We're really grateful to Allison Gardner, who I believe, along with Deb Allison, had the discussion about the potential need to have a common ground meeting. Yep. And as a follow-up to that, we all worked together to try to pull together a joint meeting to kind of share together with the Common Council issues going on. Mark Roloff and I then worked on common agenda items that each group had submitted, and we're going to really turn it over to Mark to kind of lead us through the issues of our common work and what are the potentials of the future. So we have, all I can comment on is that life is far more simple in this assignment for me as superintendent of schools in the past. When you're dealing with one major city is a whole lot different than really dealing with all our parts of 7 cities, 7 councils, 7 mayors, and 7 city managers, and 7 police chiefs, and only 5 fire chiefs. Life is simpler here, so and it's a good partnership. So I'm very pleased for us to have this opportunity to be together. With that, Mark?
thank you, Superintendent Mack. When we were leading up to this, there's certain things we want to talk about and have the council and the school board talk about, but we thought it would be good to give a good overview of things we're already doing. And I didn't realize what a project that was, because after the departments from both the school district and the city gave us items that they worked on, we're like, wow, we got a lot. So I'm going to whip through this, we gave you the presentation in advance so you could see it. So I'm just going to go over it mainly for the folks who haven't seen the presentation, but we've got a lot of things going on that we're very proud of, and I think that says a lot, and I think the public should be very pleased with that. A lot of people still don't understand that the school district and the city are 2 separate governmental entities, but we do a lot of great things together, and that's what we're going to talk about. We didn't put these in any particular order, except that Parks really put a good outline together, so we use the parks as our starting point. And some of the things that they're doing at the senior center, the Senior Connects program that we're working with Oshkosh North High School has just been wonderful, where the students are teaching senior center participants how to use the latest technology. Mark Zemer tells me that I'm eligible to go over to the senior center, and this is actually tempting me a little bit. But there's a lot of other programs with middle and high school classes to help us with special events at the senior center, and that blending of the generations has really been a very helpful program. And of course, the Winter Senior Olympics program, they're held at various locations throughout the school district, at the facilities and at the rec gym on Division Street. Over at Lakeshore, that bounced back. Golf lessons are done through the rec department at Lakeshore Golf Course. The Oshkosh West golf teams use the facility as well. And then the Junior Golf Academy, that's sponsored by the Oshkosh West golf coaches. So we have a lot of programs at Lakeshore Municipal Golf Course that are available for everybody. With forestry, the Arbor Day celebration over at the Payne has been very popular, and I know that the DNR likes to have that connection with the city and schools to bring children together for that, so that works out very well. And of course the water park, even before it opened, but since it opened, the cooperative agreement to operate the water park, and then of course using of Oshkosh West, having the facilities in close proximity to one another help a lot too. there's a lot of stuff with parks and the rec department, and you see all those things there just ongoing that all of our staffs work very closely together on. Ball diamonds are a big part of that, but it's also the shelters, the sailing program, which I know at least one of your board members has a great interest in. It's been very successful, and just other programs that we have, including skiing, downhill skiing. Steve was asking us just the other day because the snow was in short supply. So Steve, that snow was done just for you. I hope you understand that.
Good call.
Yeah, we did that just for you. With respect to the police department, of course, the police school liaison program has been outstanding, and we love the relationship we have. The funding for it has been provided by the school district, and that's gone very well. The crossing guard program, it's one of those things where it's required, but we do more than just that. And when Stan and I were getting prepared for this, a lot of feedback was, we really love our crossing guards, and we want to recognize them, and they do a lot of what we call +1 service. Yes, make sure the kids cross safely, but there's little things they do, and we really appreciate what they do. I've been invited to attend a number of DARE graduation ceremonies throughout the district, and so I've been able to see it firsthand. And now we're doing a pilot project in the 7th grade, which is to reinforce the behaviors that are taught through the DARE program. But DARE is a great program, and I know we have a lot of dedicated people, both at the city and the school district, that are putting that together. A more recent one is the No Time for Crime program. It's just more opportunities to get the officers connected with the children in the schools, and that's worked out very well. Epcot committee has nothing to do with Disney World. It has to do with emergency preparedness, school safety, and we just want to be prepared for those days that we hope never come. Safe Routes to School has really been going well. Jim Collins, as our transportation director, has been working, and Jim's been here less than a year, but we've been continuing that program. We've got the crossings that we put over at South Park. You may recall that there were some federal monies that we basically turned back because the logistics were just awful. But magically, we still got it done for the same amount of money, and that is due to Jim's staff that really dedicated themselves to getting that done. And then active shooter training, just training that the police department does, just again for anything that might hopefully never happens. Canine searches, it's something that we basically do as a matter of course. Police officer mentoring, getting the officers more engaged, including the neighborhood officer assistance, crime prevention programs, and then our newest addition to our police department fleet. You'll see this C-Cub. It's our community outreach vehicle. That's the big vehicle where we have special events operate out of, but also a lot of education programs come out of that. In community development, there's a lot of different things that we do. There's always been an OASD representative to the TIF Joint Review Board, and that's been a school board member. Matt's been a great contributing member to that, and we appreciate that. More recently, the GO-EDC, the Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, Superintendent Mack's been a member of the board, and not just a member, but an active participating member of the board. Stan's been very helpful in helping locate the GO-EDC's first offices as being part of that committee. Sharing of site plan and plan commission agendas, that seems to be one that is probably something we do want to talk about a little more. We can't always tell you when somebody's going to come in with an application, but having people at the site plan review, I think, does help so that the school district is aware. I think the one that the school district was aware of, and the mayor certainly recognized it when he was taking a look at those townhomes that are immediately across from Oak Lawn School. They were put in before Oak Lawn, but the impact was significant, and now Oak Lawn is the cool place. Everybody wants to be there, and so homes, it's amazing. You build it, and they do come, and we saw that with Traeger 25 years ago, and we're seeing it now with Oak Lawn. So it's one of those things that when you do build a school that is state-of-the-art, and it's always been a great school, now we just have a great facility to go with it. It's amazing how popular those things get, but we're working closely on that. We already talked about Safe Routes to School coordination. review of school boundaries, that is really where planning and school planning come together, and whether it was the discussion about what to do with Oak Lawn or when Oak Lawn was finally decided on, we're there to help assist with the boundaries, and that dialogue helps a lot. Oak Lawn reconstruction project, we did a lot of neat things. You know, the one quiet thing we did was there was some soil that was classified as contaminated because it was naturally occurring radium. We had an area that we could store it, that we could place it safely, and it's over at Quarry Park, and now it's getting pounded down by Mother Nature. It was a great collaboration. It took a lot of doing, but it got done, and we're very pleased. And those are the types of things we have to look for, because I think it saved the district maybe $400,000. Well, that's everybody's taxpayer as far as I'm concerned, so it was a true win-win. We were going to have to fill that thing anyway. E-Cook Beautification Project, that is really a neat program that Alan started with Alan Davis, our Community Development Director, started with the neighborhood programs, but the neighbors were the ones who said, we need to have E-Cook as part of our neighborhood planning. And I think it's going to be a good model for the rest of our city, because that people are engaged and doing some neat things over there to have neighborhood pride. And part of neighborhood revitalization is that neighborhood pride element. The community school interns, I mentioned that before over at the senior center. I had an opportunity to walk during the fire department toy collection during the Christmas season. I walked with some of the Oshkosh North students. I'm very impressed with what's going on over there. They're engaged, really get why they're doing those things, and we have plenty of needs in our community, and they're helping meet those needs. So kudos to everybody that's been involved in that. The Franklin School Project, just one example of just the possibilities that can happen there. This is first and fourth graders, working with our Planning Services Division. I believe that's Liz Williams. If you don't know Liz, you're going to get to know Liz, and you're going to love Liz. And we have another new planner on staff engaged specifically for neighborhood programs. Schools and neighborhoods are one and the same. Getting them together is going to be real important. And I know Counselor Pansky has a child going to Franklin. She's aware of this program. It's a great partnership. Transportation, I already mentioned safe routes to schools, the pedestrian signals and whatnot. Anytime there's a school traffic issue, we want you to call us to address issues that we can jointly work on. And then the transit system, we're probably going to talk about that a little bit. Jim's been doing some research about what some other school districts have been doing, and we got to start the dialogue sometime, so tonight might be that night. Fire.
And I just should insert into that transportation issue, one of the issues that we constantly are dealing with and really became during the time that Traeger was built, the whole issue of a second exit out of the Traeger site, elementary and middle school, because 20th Avenue just does not work very well, and if an issue for our future will be tackling that whole egress issue onto 20th, or being able to come back and look at the available feeder streets on the north side of Traeger that could create a second exit for the future. That's definitely a need.
Which was part of the original plan.
That's right, yes. Which is really a need for the future that we need to discuss.
Yeah, I know Jim's been working with that and recognizes it. He's had kids go over to Traeger, so he's familiar with it on both sides of the equation.
Yes.
Let's see. Fire department, a lot of things we take for granted that the fire department does, but fire prevention is as important as fire suppression. So education with the children in school is really important, and these are just ongoing examples of things that they do. The leadership of career exploratory classes, there's a little bit of selfish nature to that. We want prospective firefighters. I can tell you that most of my command staff is going to be retiring in the next 5 years, and so we're going to be bringing people up through the organization. We need people to be firefighters in our community in the future, so this is where we start finding them. But we've got a lot of other programs that the fire department does, and then just other things. The Knox boxes, that's where the keys are. So if there's a fire or some kind of emergency, they know where the keys are the AEDs at all the schools, that was a wonderful collaboration that a lot of community partners, that wasn't just the city and the schools, just other people were involved in that. Evacuation emergency prep plans, we talked about that, the Epcot training, the active shooter training, all those things are things that we are constantly working on for preparation. The library wanted to make sure that they did not miss out on this. Stan's been an active member of the library board. We appreciate his participation, and I think, Matt, are you on that as well?
No, I'm on the museum board.
Okay, you're the museum board. We'll get you there. But just the different programs we have, early learning collaboration is probably key with the library. They know if they can get the children into the libraries early, getting them reading, you're going to have them better prepared when you start with them. All the programs, the Create a Book program, just wonderful programs. The museum, we're a research arm for the high school students primarily. They're doing research. There's other exhibits that we're doing. It's not mentioned here, but we do have actually a school board member as well as a school superintendent on our museum board, and we appreciate their contributions for that. But there's just a few more examples of collaborations that associated with exhibits and whatnot. We are an extension of education at the museum, and it's the education of history, and we got to continue to do that. We got to figure out ways to get more children into the museum to learn more about Oshkosh history. Public Works, now we get a little more down and dirty, but actually the first time I had an opportunity to meet Kim Brown was when Kim was the principal at Smith, and we had our brand new refuse or recycling vehicles, and the kids just loved it, and it's been a popular program ever since. We've been returning to Smith. The children love and it's amazing, even if they go back the same year, they get to see it. We're educating them a lot on how important it is to recycle, and I think they understand it better than we do as adults, but it's a great program. We do presentations on water and wastewater and drinking. We don't do the tours like we used to. I would love to figure out a way to change that, but ever since 9/11, people have been real weird about that. I think children need to see the scientific job opportunities that are available. I can tell you that in our Public Works Department, we expanded the treatment plant back in the late 70s, 35 years ago, and we have a lot of 35-year employees, and they're going to be gone one day, and we need to replace them. And these are people who, science is a huge part of that, and people don't think about that because it's kind of a yucky subject to talk about, but it's very important for health and safety in the environment. So we want to do more with that. I'm very pleased and proud of the third one on that list because that was the first collaboration that I personally worked on with the school district when you had your interim administrator, Betty Lang, and we converted a field into a field/pond. In the spring, it's probably not the greatest athletic field, but in the fall, when things are drier, it's a great athletic field, and my children have gone to Tippler, so I know that it's being used, and the different soccer teams use it. So that is an example of wonderful collaboration. And we did a lot of other things with that. We also purchased some property just north of North High, that detention pond's there, and the faculty at the school have done a lot of good things to educate and use that as a teaching moment. We serve as a fueling station for district vehicles. We're happy to do that. When necessary, emergency road salt supplier, specialty snow removal. Doesn't happen a lot, but when it happens, it's probably because it's very much needed. And this time of year is one of those examples. And then a few more, and this is with, if you have your presentation, I added one thing here. Media services, we're sitting here and getting televised on Oshkosh Community Media, and I didn't mention it in your presentation, so I was shamed into it by OCMS to make sure we mentioned that. And I do mention that for a reason, because years ago, it was required by local and federal law that the cable companies funded the equipment we have that we are televising the meetings, and that funding doesn't exist anymore. So as this stuff gets old, we're going to have to figure out a way to do it, because I think there's a large interest in school board meetings, and we're going to have the same discussion with the county as well, but to continue that. The Three Waves Health Clinic, which just opened a few weeks ago, That was a huge project that you had a lot of, that was pure collaboration, and that's going to save all of us, particularly the taxpayer, a lot of money in the long run, so we're very pleased with that. And then little things like the 8th grade career fair, where you have different departments that are, at the events held over at Tippler, engaging children to learn about different careers, and multiple departments are part of that, and we're happy to be contributing with that. With that, I hope I didn't take up too much of the time. Really just wanted to leave it open for questions on anything that we've talked about here, or just some of the other items that that Superintendent Mack put on the agenda.
And I would really turn over to members of the board, because it's really your meeting, to have an opportunity to both work with mayor and council, but also with city officials for questions and issues that the board has. Most of the issues have been woven in that we received as suggestions. One of the pieces that I think somewhat got a bit blended, and I know Steve Eliason has been talking about, and potentially that is something we can do with GO-EDC, is really marketing efforts for both the city and the school district. I know that's one of the topics you've been focusing on a great deal, Steve.
That's right, Mr. Mack. I don't want to turn this into a discussion on potentially one person's pet project, right? But having, as Mr. Roloff has, worked in the Appleton area for a couple of decades, and now I spend most of my my income-producing days in Green Bay, I'm always struck how often one hears some sort of disparaging comment about Oshkosh, right? Or why would I ever go there? Or that place of unrealized potential. And while there's an element of truth in that, I think those of us who have come to really like this place that we live and really cherish what we have, say, I'd really like to change that narrative, right? There's a story to be told here, and it seems to me that the only way we can really tell that effectively is in a joint fashion, right, with GO-EDC, the city, and the school district, and we could change that conversation and that perception in Green Bay and Appleton and Sheboygan. That's what Oshkosh is really all about. So I don't have a conclusion to that that I'm just hurling out there, but I'd put that as a top priority as a community-wide effort.
Allison, did you have any items that you wanted to immediately discuss, or?
No, I had, there were some that he had mentioned. We talked about maybe bringing up transit tonight. That's probably a good idea. Making sure that we still have some kind of connection after tonight to make sure that we can address needs for the community. I love that this is happening, so thank you all for being here. And then the one thing that as a school district, and I'm sure as a city, we're all facing now is, our higher poverty rates and the growing needs of the families in our community. And, we get the kids, and we're really struggling. We're struggling to meet the needs. And, I'd love to hear what the city is seeing, and I'd love to hear, ideas on how we can meet the needs of all these families and do it together. So those were a few items.
Okay. Jim, you want to talk a little bit about some research you've been doing with respect to the school busing issue? For those of you who aren't familiar, give a little background, because
Sure.
not everybody may be up to speed on this.
Well, I guess the question I had for the school board is, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking in regards to the busing, so I don't know if there's something specifically you want me to answer.
Well, personally, we spend a lot of money on transportation, and it's a logistical nightmare. It's expensive, and it's we get a lot of feedback on our transportation. And I don't know if there's a way that we can make it better and share services with the city. I don't know, but it's something that we should probably at least throw on the table.
Sure. Well, what I can tell you is we currently have a partnership with UW Oshkosh, which some of you are probably aware of, where with your Titan ID you can ride GO Transit system for free. They offer it to their students, their faculty, and their alumni. In exchange for that, they provide us with revenue to offer that service for them. So that's a model that Appleton School District also uses that model. So they work with Valley Transit, and they provide revenue to Valley Transit and they allow their middle school, and it's only open to middle school and high school students to ride for free with their student ID. Now, what we could do here, and what we'd be open to is discussing, is a revenue agreement like that where, the school district would contribute, so we'd be revenue neutral. We couldn't afford to lose money on it, but we would also be able to offer that service then to the students here where they could ride the GO Transit buses for free with their ID.
Is it offered from the university on a per pupil amount, or is it a flat rate?
Sure.
or-
With the university, how it works is we have a contract with them where they pay a base amount, and then they pay so much per rider up into a cap. So it'd be a little bit, we could do something similar type agreement. It'd be a little different, but it would be real similar with the school district. It would depend if you wanted to offer it to elementary, middle school, and high school, if you wanted to limit it to middle school or high school. Do you want to open it up to employees and faculty, or do you just want to have it for students? So we'd have to work out some of those issues. Currently, you buy about $14,000 a year in passes. I'm not really sure how those are distributed, but I know that the schools make them available, I think, on an as-needed basis. So you're already contributing something to it. Depending on what you would be looking for, we could get you an estimate of what we would need. I guess if you wanted to pursue that, what I would recommend is we would come up with some type of short-term interim agreement until we could find out exactly how it works for both of us. We don't currently have a real scientific method for tracking student ridership. I have a pretty good estimate of what it is, but it's, since we don't track what type of ridership, I can't tell you if somebody got on the bus, if they were a student or a member of the general public. But
We can't do that now either,
okay.
so we're not doing that anyway.
Sure, but I can give you a pretty good estimate based on when we look at ridership versus from summer to when school started, or from when breaks to when breaks start and end versus when school year starts and end. So we got pretty good estimates on what it is. I believe my predecessor, probably 5-6 years ago, had some discussions with the business director of the school district as well. So we have a pretty good idea where we could start. So that's what I would recommend. If you want me to work with somebody, we could work on that and start with some type of short-term agreement where we could come up with a revenue agreement, depending on which students you want to make the service available to.
I think from our end, we'd have to determine how we were going to utilize this and how it was going to save us money.
Right.
If we were going to do this, who exactly are we targeting? I'm assuming
Yep.
probably middle school and high school would be what we would be targeting. And the question would be whether or not, if it's not going to eliminate a bus route somewhere, it probably wouldn't be beneficial to us. Unless, I guess, it was eliminating the short runs of the smaller buses or something like that.
One of the things that presently happens is probably our greatest usage is immediately after school at North. And that transportation, we provide transportation for all eligible students who ride the bus, who are qualified, that being 2 miles or greater. But there are some extreme ends on the south end of the North attendance area that would be probably in the 1 mile to 2 mile walking range that I know and observe within 10 minutes after school and 20 minutes after, or 30 minutes after school is out, that we nearly fill 2 city buses, GO Transit buses, from that location alone, and especially in extreme cold weather. In more moderate weather, it's the ridership, I'm sure, drops, but in cold weather, those students would not be eligible for school district aided transportation, but are choosing to use the bus because it's a warm ride home as opposed to, and in many of those families, and that's again the point of poverty, many of those families don't have an extra car, or those students don't have a car. And as we know, with our high schools, the highest date of bus ridership is the first day of school. And as 16-year-olds turn 16, ridership decreases every day of the school year on established bus routes for eligible students, because they suddenly have a car to use and get to school. But in our neighborhoods of the greatest poverty, frankly, GO-Transit is really their savior. And that, but yet those students would not be eligible for school bus transportation at the same time, because they live less than 2 miles from school.
So the trick to it might be in ways we could help. Again, as Matt said, you have to find a way to get some bus routes down with the district, otherwise you don't have any savings that you could apply to it.
Right, yeah, because we only are able to obtain reimbursement on those eligible transportation students.
And for our part, we eliminated the tripper buses a few years ago because we were able to put them into a route, and that helped save us money. And that was our motivation. But to the degree we can get, we still get some reimbursement from the state and feds. It decreases every year. So think of school aid, transit aid, same thing, just keeps going down and down. Forget about 2/3. That was a dream 20 years ago. But that's what we deal with at transit. But there is a reimbursement, and that's regardless of income level. We just have to figure out a way how to marry your resources and our resources to get something like that done.
Sure.
Jim's willing to research it, and to the degree you have some colleagues in other districts that have ideas, we can bring our resources together to at least talk about it and try to figure it out.
And to a certain extent, and that's the nightmare of your master schedule on timing, if the timing of standard end-of-day dismissal was more well-connected with the bus schedule, or the bus schedule was more connected with our dismissal times, we would end up with having probably less supervision issues on those bus stops waiting for the buses to arrive. And I know our administrators spend a fair amount of time making sure that those, when you have 30, 40, or 50 young people waiting at a bus stop, waiting for the next bus to come, that adds to a supervision issue. And I've been a party to that supervision in several days to observe what's happening with that. And if we had any opportunity that at certain times of the day that the schedule was slightly modified, that pickup times were more immediately adjacent to the end of dismissal, would be really helpful.
Sure, we try to do that the best we can. What we've done, and Mark alluded to the trippers, that's, for comparison, that's what Appleton, they pay Valley Transit to run trippers specifically for school dismissal. So that would be one option. We would need some revenue for it, but that's something we could look into, and that would alleviate the problem with the crowding and with the schedule. Obviously, we could set those for whatever time we need to.
Yeah.
So that's one way they get around it. But I just wanted to mention two things that we have done recently to help with that is, and Councilor Pansky's aware of this because she's on our Transit Advisory Board, but two things we've done recently in the last few months is we have 2 buses now that service dismissal at North and 2 at West.
Good.
So we did deviate one of the routes to get to West after dismissal, and then also at North. So now they can take route. The majority of them like Route 2. We've been trying to encourage more of them to take Route 4, which some of them, 10 to 15, probably have taken advantage of that. So we do have 2 buses now at each school at dismissal. That seems to alleviate some of the crowding issue. But we certainly could work with you on that if that's the best option. We do get quite a bit of ridership from students, and it seems to be a good option for them. It's a pretty good share of our ridership, so yeah, I'd be more than willing to work with whoever you'd like me to on that issue.
And I think that reflects very closely to the issue of families in poverty who don't have possession of one or more automobiles, which is certainly a trend that seems to be growing.
variety of reasons that motivate people to ride the city buses.
With regard to the school end times, that seems something that is pretty straightforward, and we could probably tackle easily with regard to determining whether or not we could come up with some sort of ridership estimate on our end. How can we tackle that? How can the school district look into?
We can do some surveying and identifying the number of students who use that as their primary transportation, both to and from. And I think, Doctor, that Dr. Herzog is right on the issue. In the morning, many times parents can drop off children, but their eight-hour workday is longer than our school day, and it's the after school is more often, I think, a variable. And I see the ridership far higher post end of day than it is in the morning.
That's correct. I mean,
Yeah.
rough estimate is you probably have about 467 kids a day that are using GO-Trans.
Wow.
And that includes all the schools morning and
Sure.
afternoon.
And that would be a sizable bulk of mid-afternoon traffic, otherwise driving with a handful of people on the bus.
That's a lot of school buses.
Right, yes. Sure. Well, we'll work on identifying some pieces there to take a look at it. I think the limitation we always have to bear in mind is the fact that the distance for transportation is defined in law, and that's where the district is able to obtain its both aid and levy authority.
Okay, beyond that issue, there were several others listed.
The low-income housing one's probably another one. Yeah. I guess I'd just like to hear, I think we've got things that we can talk about. I know several of our council members have been involved in neighborhood organizations. Alan's staff have been actively engaged in that. So I just kind of like to hear what some of your thoughts are. I think council members as well as staff can talk about this.
I think you might want to clarify right away that you made sure that I knew that the city of Oshkosh receives no additional financing on refugee.
What I said was you can have double. We'll get you double what we get. Yeah, which is interesting because that's the dialogue, because there was the impression that we're getting some money with refugee resettlement, and we're kind of in the same boat as you. And
So it all goes to World Service? Is that, who's
World
getting the money?
Service is-
They're getting all of it?
They're getting all of it. Now, and part of the reason that we've been so successful in resettling refugees is we're a victim of our own success, because transportation is one that's identified. $1 bus rides, that you can't beat that. Anywhere else in the state, you cannot beat that. Our social service agencies, our schools, those are all components, so we do a good job and we keep getting more work, and that's one of those things that happens. But yeah, World Relief is the sole beneficiary of where those dollars go. So that's, we've recognized, I think the mayor has been involved in that just with his work on United Way and just seeing the impact, but
And the nonprofits is really when it's come to that. Also, one thing to keep in mind on some of these things is I think Jeff Hall stated it well one time, that the county takes care of people and the city takes care of things, the way it's sort of divided, which I think is important. So I'll come back to where we were, is that historically the county has kind of the social responsibilities, and the city does the things, the buses, the parks, the quality of life assets, things like that are made available. Some things on housing with codes and things like that to make sure that people are safe. And we're starting a registration now, thanks to Mr. Cummings, of some housing, which I think is going to be important, not only for realtors and renters, but also for the people living in them.
When you say registration?
We have limited focus rental registrations.
The program is a rental inspection and a registration program. In other words, other communities have it. We went to La Crosse a couple of years ago, worked with their people. Our feeling is, I don't care what you pay in rent, you deserve a clean, safe environment.
Okay.
And I think we all know some of the very poor neighborhoods. So this program He's going to probably get some kickback from landlords, but I guess so what? They don't live in Oshkosh anyway. They don't live across from their slum properties, so it's a matter of, we will inspect the properties. We're not sure if it's every year, every 3 years. If you get a clean bill of health, the inspection will be pushed out further. If you fail, you have so many days or months to correct whatever problems there are. We want a contact name, a person's name, that should there be a problem, if there's garbage or a fire or what have you, our city staff doesn't have to spend hours and hours trying to track down who this LLC is. There's a person right there. I think we hope to have that in place by the end of the year, if not sooner. And we're also working with the university. The students, well, they can't have a direct impact or tell their students where to live off campus. We feel that some of the problem areas are in the housing near the university, so we want their participation as well. So I think it's the first time Darren said that he has met with the university in 20 years. So as far as housing, so we've got that dialogue going too, that we want to upgrade all of the rental properties.
And that's not unique to Oshkosh either. I've experienced that in the last few communities that I've lived in prior to moving back to Wisconsin.
But a lot of the communities in the state, that at least they have universities, have these programs. We're one of the last one to get on board.
Right. Yeah, it's common elsewhere.
It is.
The part of it I wanted to say is that we haven't really had a lot of active involvement. The police department's got involved somewhat in some of the refugee issues and some of the lung issues also. But we really don't have a central focus on that, and we really haven't. And I think in the future, probably all of us are going to have to, because historically what it's been the schools by nature of children go there and schools take care of children during the day and from these families of poverty. But really the county has really been the one that has gotten the funds and funds it in terms of a lot of the people and the nonprofit organizations. And it's becoming an incredible burden on the nonprofit organizations. As Barb knows, in United Way, more and more of the funds are going towards poverty levels and also resettlement issues. Some of them are changing their missions to deal specifically expanding their missions with these groups. But as that population grows, and it will continue to grow, because and it's going to continue to grow also because World Relief generally will only support people for like 6 months, I think is the way it goes. But many of these people need help and beyond, and they're staying here, they're leaving at the end of 6 months, ready to move off of those things. We're going to have more consortiums, and obviously it has a tremendous effect on what goes on in the classroom. We're going to have to get more involved and work with the county. I think that's going to be one thing that people like the sounding board, in which people from various areas do get together. There's a lot of communication, Stan and Mark and myself and Chamber and other people get together. But we're going to have to focus on poverty more, as you say, because it's growing in the community, and it's affecting more and more things. It also affects the housing more.
But to add what you're saying too, because a lot of the housing is in more the central city, the older homes. The problem is, are those homes built as a single family? At some point, you put a kitchen in the bedroom upstairs, you've now got a two-family. The rents are very low, and so we attract a larger percentage of low-income families to the city, and the landlords, because there's nothing in place now, there's no incentive really to maintain these properties. I mean, just drive around town, and anyone who's lived for a length of time, you can see neighborhoods that have declined and fairly rapidly. And being in real estate too, it's once the house next door becomes derelict, your property values go down very rapidly. It's very hard to sell your house. And you lose your investment you've had in your property.
Clearly, we have people who are working with kids every day on this. You've obviously got this program that's going on, as well as other things in the county also. Should there be some sort of representative ongoing from the school district, from the county, and from the city that get together and talk specifically about that? And I'm not talking about Mr. Roloff and Mr. Mack. I'm talking about the people who are maybe in charge of specifically dealing with, as you say, this rental program or with the childhood poverty issues that we have in the school, so that they're meeting together as opposed to it going from them to Stan or from them to Mark and then meeting. Could they get together at that level?
I know that,
Or is it already happening, maybe?
maybe not exactly the way you're describing it, but I think that dialogue is starting. District Attorney Gossett has been trying to engage folks because he recognizes that a lot of the problems that come through his door just didn't get made yesterday. They were a compilation of things, and he's talked about engaging the schools because when there are issues, the school can assist, not solve everything, but can assist in that. And you might be more familiar with it.
We're working with him on an effort. We originally were going to use Roosevelt, but we had a change of principles, so we ended up with moving to Merrill Elementary with that project, and that's proceeding to try to identify and work together on identifying, using that as a pilot to identify how we can work together as both a school, a legal community, the police department, social service agency, housing inspectors with the city, and it's just getting underway. But it's an effort that we would hope that with being able to demonstrate some success with his leadership, we would be able to move that pilot from one location to other schools. And we intentionally looked at only initially elementary schools of poverty first, with and making sense that we had stability in the principalship at Merrill Elementary, and that's where we wanted to start. And so we started there. We had begun the process and losing principal at Roosevelt to Sun Prairie. We determined that it was best to move to a school location where we had stability in principalship.
I think the observation that the people involved, they recognize that similar clientele coming in through the same, through different doors, but for overlapping reasons. Problems in school are problems with perhaps health care or early childhood issues, or which then become law enforcement issues, which then become district attorney issues. So the district attorney was like, well, if we can nip this in the bud way at the beginning, it's going to help the entire system from start to finish.
And that's why I was saying, rather than having, the heads of state, the heads of the district, the heads of the city, the heads of the county meet, if we could get those people who are actually in the trenches dealing with this on a daily basis together for a meeting on quarterly or something along those lines, just to discuss this, so that they can work out issues amongst themselves. Oh yeah, we saw, half a dozen people because of issue X. Oh, well, we saw those same people, except by the time they got to us, it was a bigger problem.
That's why
It's bigger than the school board and bigger than the city, but I still think at some point we're going to have some sort of a group, a consortium that takes on poverty in the city as a focal policy kind of thing, and then other people get together on it. I mean, we solved the silos in economic development, put together GO-EDC. That was not an easy process. It's well aware.
And that's,
But I think finally what we did is we took all these silos out there and tried to bring people together. I think the same thing's true in poverty. We have the county doing things, the school system has issues, we have certain issues, but we really don't get together and tackle poverty as an issue for the city.
Yeah, we need to address poverty, but there's nothing mutually exclusive in all of these things that we're looking at. One of the ways to address the poverty is to work on our economic development and making our community better. I mean, if we can bring economic development to the community, that brings jobs in. Jobs mean money. If we can bring these jobs in, the higher paying jobs, the technical jobs, we have a great education system, whether it be at the public school level, the university, the technical college. It gets to Steve's comment about collaborating and getting that word out there. So we can't just say, we want to focus on the poverty, but we can also use that as a stepping off point to focus on economic development, to create jobs so when these people come to our community, rather than relying on the nonprofits, they can become self-sufficient. And so this isn't mutually exclusive, so we have to also continue those efforts as well.
One of the things I would want to comment on, the fact that as with the transit, we're a victim of our own success. Part of what our responsiveness on English language learners program led by Julie Mosier is a major asset to, we are an attractive location because we deliver on the promise of serving English language learners. And the more success you have with that, the more the American Refugee Committee looks at saying, well, it works in Oshkosh, why don't we do more? And that, we can't deny that access, but we would be irresponsible if we didn't deliver quality all the time for every refugee. And that's really a nightmare that we face.
Some of it goes to the mayor's point, because I've been involved in literacy programs for the last 25 years, and how the Literacy Council has evolved from basic literacy, functional job literacy, so people could fill out a job application years ago. That was the goal of when you were tutoring somebody. I want you to be able to apply for a job, go to the doctor's office and fill out an application. That's really gone away, which is unfortunate, because as great as the school systems are, sometimes some folks slip through the cracks. The Literacy Council is not doing any of that anymore. It's almost all ESL type of programs.
Second language.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, we are basically out of time, and we haven't discussed the majority of these issues. STEM programming we haven't discussed, crossing guards, collaboration with Menominee Park Strategic Plan. What were we going to discuss with the Menominee Park Strategic Plan? Is that something we could summarize briefly, or?
Probably some issues that Steve's brought up about trying to take a look at what we're looking at in Menominee Park, and can we get some programs there. Menominee Park is beloved, and everybody wants to put something there. The biggest feedback we got from Menominee Park is don't overdo it. So that's a balancing act to work that out. As far as the STEM programming, I'm really excited about that possibility, and that's why I mentioned earlier with the water filtration plant and the sanitary sewer plant. We need to get students to recognize that. So we absolutely want to be involved in that program, and it starts with conversations, and then when we're doing a presentation a few years from now, that'll be on the screen because we will have started it today. And the crossing guard recognition, let's just talk. It's that simple.
If I can say, if I can throw something out there, not to add another meeting to our already full schedules, but maybe what we should do is talk about getting back together in 6 months and to continue this dialogue. Too often, I know that this happens at the city level, I'm sure it happens at the school board level, it happens at the county level. We have these meetings, everybody goes off feeling really great, everything else, and then we go back and there's no there, and that it's the follow-up. So what I'd suggest is that maybe we take a look at scheduling something in 6 months to come back and address these issues, to continue this dialogue, to build on it.
I like it.
Teresa, can you make sure that gets on the docket? And then,
Mark, you can put that in your...
as far as what we're discussing,
We'll get together.
we can bring back actually these items, I would say, at the next meeting, and at least the first two, determine if we've made any progress on the busing and on collaboration with the impact of low-income housing. At least we got those two out on the table today. And then we'll probably, hopefully, get into a greater discussion on the others.
The other thing you may want to do at some point is share some of the strategic plans. I'll share the strategic plan. We have an elaborate one to you, and to just look and see how that strategic plan, your strategic plan affects us.
Right.
Just like Oakland, the only reason I was willing to support in terms of the city, as I said at the time, the support part of it was to me, it was economic development, too.
Yeah.
We have to have a school on the north side. There were other solutions, but that was the only one that had a school on the north side, unless you had another site. So,
Right.
when we know you want to build a school somewhere, or you want to do something with a school, that's important to the city and economic development. So, and I don't know what your strategic plan says, I don't know what things that might affect it, so I'd share those plans and look at them and say, what's the impact in the future, because that's what you're going to have to do, is look ahead and then develop plans for you.
I would just like to close on behalf of administration. We cannot ask for more in a cooperative effort that exists at all levels with all departments with the city. We are grateful and blessed that we have partners that work together for the benefit of our mutual clients, that being parents, children in the community, and the greater citizenry. It's delightful. We couldn't ask for more, and we're most appreciative of all the efforts that go on. And I can never say no to a city request, and Mark doesn't ever say no to our requests. And we try to accommodate and this mutual effort on the part of all parties and department heads and our leadership here in the district. You couldn't ask for more, and we're really grateful for it.
I would agree, because the key thing to remember is both of our names have Oshkosh in them.
Right, absolutely. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Under request for future agenda items, Teresa, under request for future agenda items, I would like to add the bullet points that are, I'd like to add the bullet points that are under number 2. Are there any other things, are there any other requests for future agenda items for this meeting? Seeing none, could I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Dito? Aye. Dito, aye. Eliason? Aye. Eliason, aye. Garner? Aye. Garner, aye. Herzog? Aye. Herzog, aye. Lemberger? Aye. Lemberger, aye. Saginack? Saginack, aye. Wiedenhoff?
Aye.
Wiedenhoff, aye. Motion carried.
We're adjourned.
Oshkosh Board of Education is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org.